Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here. Once again, I'm got Alastair here, and we're going to be talking AWS, and this is episode 8A, Direct Connect. How you doing, Alastair?
I'm good, Jeff. The weather's starting to turn. It's winter time here, so it's a little grey and it's going to get rainy today. But I'm nice and warm and cozy inside my office.
But absolutely no snow.
No, too close to the sea.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens with AWS networking. Now, last time we talked about bringing everything, the connection on for the on-premises and the cloud and working back and forth there. So today we're going to be talking about Direct Connect. What's that all about?
Yeah. So we last episode we did look at this idea of hybrid cloud of connecting your AWS infrastructure to your on-premises infrastructure. And we particularly looked at using a VPN with a virtual private gateway, or VGW. So the VGW is the structure that we put into our VPC, our own networking on AWS. And then we, in the last video, created a VPN over the internet to connect back to our on-premises network. Well, this video, we're going to take away that VPN and we're going to replace it with a dedicated fiber link between the AWS network and our on-premises network.
Okay.
And we do this because, well, first off, we get a lower cost for every gigabyte of data that we transfer out over this connection. And also we get some options about more bandwidth. So with the VPN, we've got about 1.25 gigabit per second maximum bandwidth. With Direct Connect, we can buy a 1 or 10 gig circuit and get much higher throughput as well. And it's a private network. It never touches the internet. And often that private network is really important because there's some level of trust involved in using a VPN. And then also it's over a network that we don't control. The internet is a wild and woolly place and it can be a little unreliable at times.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
Direct Connect allows us to have a private connection, no internet, paying for those links through. And sometimes it ends up being lower cost than using the VPN. Now, while the actual AWS Direct Connect service only comes in two speeds of 1 and 10 gig, one of the things we'll see is there's always going to be a Direct Connect partner involved in getting you into Direct Connect, and they offer managed services that have different bandwidth. And that's what we're going to show in the hands-on video. We actually get to build this. First time I've ever seen this solution being built out actually hands-on is this standing up this Direct Connect in our next video.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's unusual. I mean, customers do this all the time, but a single customer will stand up that Direct Connect and then it'll stay in place for years at a time. So it's not something that you stand up and throw away on a regular basis.
Okay. So you're doing this once for the most part.
Yeah. So whilst that VPN connection is fairly easy to stand up and tear down because we're not actually provisioning any new networks, new physical networks with our VPN. We just use the internet.
Okay.
That was the mechanism that we did last episode. It allowed us to get routing from on-premises into public cloud. But what we're going to do is transition to using Direct Connect, and that's sometimes abbreviated as DX by AWS. So if you see a reference to DX, it means Direct Connect.
Okay.
And so the key characteristics for Direct Connect, it's a private connection. It doesn't use the internet. It is a dedicated private connection. And that service that you buy from AWS comes in either 1 gig or 10 gig speed. And it quite literally is an Ethernet connection, a fiber Ethernet connection inside a data center. So it is inside an edge location. Whilst our VPC sits inside a region, the actual Direct Connect happens at an edge location. This is a data center that's usually owned by somebody other than AWS and has a whole lot of AWS infrastructure in it. This is where AWS's infrastructure touches the internet. And some of those edge locations are Direct Connect edge locations.
And we talked about edge locations in a previous video, right?
I think we've mentioned it as a concept of where the AWS network touches the internet. I haven't talked a lot about that AWS infrastructure that's underneath all of this, and that might come in another series.
Okay.
In that edge location, we're going to need to work with an interconnect partner. So the edge locations themselves that have Direct Connect enabled, there'll be a partner who has Direct Connect. Now that partner will have multiple fiber links into the Direct Connect location. You'll need to work with them to get a fiber link from your on-premises environment into that Direct Connect location, and then they will do the fiber between their location inside the edge location to the AWS actual network.
Okay.
So it's all provision. The actual Direct Connect piece is inside the edge location. AWS service is just inside that edge location. You have to have a relationship with the Direct Connect provider to get the network all the way back to your on-premises data center. So this is why it's going to be a bit of time to provision. Usually with Direct Connect, you first have a relationship with the partner and you get a fiber link between your on-premises network and the edge location where this Direct Connect is. And then the bit to connect that fiber in the edge location to the AWS fiber is relatively fast.
All right.
And that usually you have that partner back to your on-premises. And so there is always a partner required, and sometimes they provide a fully managed service for you, and sometimes they just provide you some fiber that you can light up yourself. And so if you have customer managed fiber, we have 10 gig or 1 gig Ethernet from AWS's edge location all the way back to the customer. And this would be a little bit like a dark fiber service. This is that the service provider is just giving you the fiber interconnect and you're doing all of the management. So layer 2 from the Direct Connect partner, but you as a customer, you create the VLANs on your on-premises environment. You create the virtual interfaces that attach to those VLANs, and you then attach those virtual interfaces to your VPCs. You manage all of those pieces if it's a customer managed environment.
Okay.
And that's the one that's only available in 1 and 10 gig, but it gives all of the control to the customer.
Can you have less than 1 gig or?
Not in the customer managed form, but when we move on to the partner managed, yes, you can. You can have lower than a 1 gig connection.
Okay.
So partners can, in the video that follows, we're going to use Megaport as our partner. And they have lots of bandwidth into a number of different edge locations. And then they provide virtual links for you over top of that. So the partner provides the WAN link. The partner is providing also the VLAN configuration, and they provision out that virtual interface. And then you can dial up and down the bandwidth for the individual virtual interfaces. So with partner managed, yes, you can get a fraction of a 1 gig link. You could have a 250 megabit link into one of your VPCs.
Okay.
And you could have, from that same partner, you could have a different speed link into a different VPC. So the partner managed is much more flexible, but it's controlled through a partner interface. You'll see that when we do this provisioning hands-on, we actually use the Megaport interface for doing most of the provisioning. Whereas customer managed, you as the customer are in much more of a control.
Okay.
So in terms of a layout for this, we have on the left our VPC that's already been provisioned in a region. We have on the right our on-premises network and our on-premises router. So all of the Direct Connect magic happens inside the AWS edge location that's enabled for Direct Connect. So the icon at the top is the edge location. In the middle, there's a Direct Connect icon. And what we're going to have is a relationship with a partner. And that partner is going to have their own routers and their own Ethernet inside that edge location. And we will have had some arrangement with that partner to connect our on-premises network into their router in the Direct Connect location.
All right.
That's just to get into the Direct Connect location, we're not yet onto the AWS site. So what we then have to do is get the Direct Connect between the AWS software-defined network and the partner network. So that's still a 10 gig, 1 gig fiber connection that goes through. But then we layer on top one or more of these virtual interfaces or VIFs. This is the thing that connects our VPC to our WAN, to our network across our entire environment.
All right.
So it's this virtual interface connects a VPC. And for each VPC that we connect, we will usually have another virtual interface.
And they're 1 gig each up to 10.
So the Direct Connect piece, the red icon, if it's customer managed, that's the 1 gig or 10 gig piece.
Okay.
If it's customer managed, you can have up to 50 virtual interfaces sharing that one link. If it's partner managed, then the partner manages the red bit, and you can have virtual interfaces. And again, it depends on the partner provider. I've seen numbers of the same sort of order of 50 virtual interfaces from the single partner. But with the partner managed ones, you can often control the bandwidth per virtual interface.
Okay. So if I understand this correctly, we're talking, let's just say a single company here. But if, let's say, we have a worldwide conglomerate with office in England, office in the United States, office in Australia, so they would probably have on premises in all of those locations, which would then create a direct connect, a separate direct connect, and then their individual VIF into the VPC, correct?
Yeah, so the architecture you would typically say is that I've already got my own WAN, and what I'm going to treat each of my VPCs like, so my Australian VPCs, I'm going to treat as if they're a sub data center of my Australian office.
Okay.
And my UK VPCs I'll treat as a sub data center of my UK office. And you may choose to have all of your backbone connectivity between those VPCs over that WAN that you already have through your physical offices.
All right.
It's not to say you can't use something like VPC peering that you remember we talked about quite a while ago. You can use VPC peering to attach the actual VPCs together.
Okay.
You have a variety of different options. And in the next video, when we talk about costs, we'll talk about why you might choose one or the other.
Perfect.
But I think one of the things I've seen with Direct Connect is there are lots of different bits of options that aren't always clear how they fit together. And from the actual hands-on experience, using a managed network provider, like in our case Megaport, was really easy to configure out. Whereas the manually configured, where you've just got a 1 gig or 10 gig circuit that you're then managing, that's good if you have a higher level of skill in your networking team to manage it, and if you're going to need that amount of bandwidth. So the virtual interface, the VIF, this provides the routed connection. So the virtual interface is either a private VIF, and that's what we're concentrating on this, where the virtual interface is used to connect a virtual private cloud to your on-premises network. But you can also have a thing called a public VIF, and this is allowing access over your direct connect circuit to the AWS public services. So rather than from on-premises going out over the internet to get to S3, you can use a public virtual interface to have that direct connection handle your traffic to S3. And you don't have to have public virtual interfaces, but they are an option, and they can be useful for stopping that traffic to your S3 bucket from going out over the public internet and keeping it over a private network. So if you're in a highly regulated environment, those public VIFs might be a really important thing.
Okay.
We're just going to focus on a private VIF because it's much more common to need to connect your VPC to your on-premises network over a private link.
I'm assuming there's not much difference in creating a private VIF versus a public VIF, except public versus private, right?
Unfortunately, it's not. There is a lot more complexity. There are public IP addresses. You must own some public IP addresses for public VIFs, and you also must own a public BGP ASN as well. So public VIFs are significantly more complex to set up.
Okay.
Kind of disappointing, eh? You hope it would just be a tick box to turn it on.
It would always be nice if it was super easy to do, but if it was super easy to do, we wouldn't be doing these videos.
This is true. So a virtual interface has a VLAN on the Ethernet. The link coming out of your network getting into that direct connect location is usually some Ethernet, and we use a VLAN to identify a virtual interface. So the actual transport between will be across a particular VLAN. And then the virtual interface goes from the direct connect to a virtual gateway that's attached to a virtual PC, a virtual private cloud. And then usually you will have multiple virtual interfaces on the same direct connect because you have multiple virtual private clouds, multiple VPCs.
All right.
So you're connecting multiple VPCs back to on-premises over these virtual interfaces. Really importantly, as we're configuring this, you can stand up all of the virtual interfaces and get all of the BGP connections up. But inside the actual VPC, you're still going to need to set up some route tables. So route tables are still really important for getting from your VPC back to your on-premises network. And my usual example here is that we've got our 10.64/16 network, which is our VPC. So first route in the route table is always that the whole VPC is local. We've added for the route back to on-premises our 10.0.0/8 route that goes to the virtual gateway. Notice that it doesn't go to the particular virtual interface. That could have been a route that's based on a VPN. And in fact, we can have a combination of direct connect as our primary connection and a VPN connection as a standby in case the direct connect falls over. We don't have to change the route table on the subnet for that. It's just a configuration on the virtual gateway to say primary route is over a virtual interface and there's a backup route over a VPN. And of course, we always have our last resort route, our 0000/0, to go to the internet via an internet gateway. So our VPC, our direct connect provisioning process is about having that relationship with the partner, having a connection between the partner's network and our network, and then provisioning direct connect in the edge location, adding virtual interfaces for each of the VPCs we want to connect, and then making sure our route tables are correct. That really is what I wanted to talk about in this particular episode, because that's the basics of the theory. Unfortunately, it does get very deep very fast if we go any further than that. But in the following video, I'll be joined by Tom Green, and we'll look at the actual hands-on process of deploying a direct connect into an existing VPC.
All right. And we'll be putting that. They'll be coming up next. You guys can watch for that as we go over on Build Day Live and Build Day TV. Feel free to subscribe and comment, and of course, if we've missed over anything, let us know so we can correct that for you. So, Alastair, once again, it's a pleasure doing this, and I'm learning a lot from here. Even though some of the acronyms are starting to go over my head, I'm going to have to do some flashcard studies.
Yeah, keeping your virtual gateway separate from your VPCs and your direct connects, and yeah, it gets confusing, and it is. That's one of the things I noticed about AWS. They have their own way of talking about things, and you got to learn it to be successful with AWS. You've got to learn AWS's words.
Well, it just beginning with the word AWS. That's
Amazon Web Services.
There we are. So there you go. So, all right, you guys have been watching episode 8A, Direct Connect. Stick around for the second half of this, where it's Alastair and Tom talking about putting it all together. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.